should react to maybe something that is not music for once in a while. So um, let's see how you guys receive this reaction. So this is World War I by Oversimplified. I am someone who enjoys history very, very much. I'm not claiming to be an expert, but I do think I do understand a lot of the context of. Let's see. I will not say this right now, and actually, whenever the video comes out, I don't know shit. Let's go for this. There are two parts. I will be reacting for the two parts like in a row, but probably the videos will be split on part 1, part 2.
The world of 1914, a time of modern technology, culture, and fashion. Truly the height of civilization. Let's have a war. Everyone knew a big war was coming. France wanted some stuff back that Germany had taken from it. Germany wanted to take more of everyone's stuff, and they were building a big sexy navy that was making the British uncomfortable. These two empires thought they were really cool, but lots of different people who lived there didn't think it was so cool. And some of them had even been declaring independence with help from Russia. Everyone was talking about each other behind each other's backs, throwing the fact that military technology...
Yeah, that's one thing. Like, before the First World War broke out, like everybody was already... everybody knew a war was coming. It was only a matter of time and only a matter of excuse for war to break loose on the Europe continent at the moment. You guys don't actually think that the killing of Franz Ferdinand was the actual reason for this whole war, right? It was just an excuse. It was just like the tipping point for the war to break loose because it was already like imminent. Everybody knew it.
had come a long way since the last major war, and suddenly everyone was pretty eager to beat each other up. In this area of Austria-Hungary live some Serbs and Bosnians who hated living in Austria-Hungary. So the Austro-Hungarian Archduke Franz Ferdinand goes there for a nice drive in an open-top car with his car's route published in advance. And that went just about as well as you'd expect. Some assassins were waiting for him along the way, and
you would think that after this people would stop driving around on open-top cars. Yikes.
Threw bombs at his car, but they missed and blew up some officers behind him instead. So the Archduke goes into hiding, leaves Sarajevo, and the whole war never happens. Except no, the Archduke doesn't leave, but instead goes back out in the open-top car to visit the injured officers in hospital. The driver takes a wrong turn and by sheer coincidence gets stuck beside one of the failed assassins, who shoots him. Austria-Hungary is under...
Like, how many times you want to expose yourself? Franz Ferdinand. Yes. Jesus, go home, bro. The fuck you're doing?
Understandably pissed about all this, and they think the Serbian government had something to do with it, which they might have. So they go to their ally Germany and say, hey Germany, we're going to declare war on Serbia, and Germany is all for that. So Austria-Hungary send a big list of impossible demands to Serbia, and when Serbia refuses, they declare war. Austria-Hungary and Germany are friends, and Serbia is protected by Russia, who's friends with France, so they'll declare war on each other. Montenegro joins in too. France and Britain also have a kind of alliance, so when France says, hey Britain, you got my back? Britain is like, maybe? And then they decide to stay out of it, which is great for Germany, because Germany has a plan. They know that Russia is so big and clumsy that it will take them a while to get ready for war. So with this guy in charge, Germany will send all its troops into...
And that's one common thing when it comes to Germany, right? They never have alliances that like can close out one of their fronts of the war. It's incredible because every time they fight, they have to fight war on two fronts. And that's the reason why they always lose. Because they need to turn on France, win the war on France, and luckily defeating England in the process, because that's what they thought would happen on World War II at least, and it didn't. But they need to do it fast because they know Russia is lower when it comes to getting the military ready, moving troops from, I don't know, Siberia to the European parts of the country. They know that Russia will be a kind of the slower part of the war. So they need to turn west quickly, like get over with the west front to when Russia is getting ready, they have every man, every military how can I say, like they have every man on their disposal ready to fight on that one front because Russia is a hell of a problem, um, as Napoleon would know. But yeah, that's what happens to Germany. Basically, that's like the TLDR of both of the both world wars. But let's go.
France at lightning speed while Russia's getting ready. Defeat France, then move all the troops to Russia and defeat Russia, and then we all speak German and eat Pfefferpottast every day. Just one problem. France has loads of forts and defenses along its German border, and Germany can't waste any time fighting them, so Germany decides to go around them. Through Belgium. Belgium is neutral, but Germany wants to march 750,000 troops through it to get around France's defenses. They're hoping Belgium will just kind of sit down and shut up, but they don't. They fight back. And they're pretty good too, so they slow the Germans down. What's worse is that Britain shows up, and they're pretty pissed that Germany's invading neutral countries. So now Britain declares war on Germany. So Germany push on through Belgium and commit some atrocities along the way. They also wear spikes and sometimes skulls on the uniform. So if you're trying to not look like the bad guys, good job. The Allies have a propaganda extravaganza, and this starts having an influence around the world, notably in America. The US President Woodrow Wilson sees himself as a bit of a Jesus figure, and spends most of the war trying to get everyone to just hug it out. But there's also a large population of ethnic Germans living in the United States, and when the war first broke out, they were like, yay Germany! But now that they're committing atrocities in Belgium, they're less enthusiastic. Let's play Spot the French Soldier. Did you see him? Easy, right? He's wearing a bright blue uniform with red trousers. And do you know who else spotted him easily too? The Germans. So when the French were slowly marching in columns through the countryside, the Germans easily tore them to shreds with their giant guns. All the nations involved in this war went in with an old school war mentality, and all of them had to update their uniforms and tactics a lot during the Great War. Because this war was going to be like nothing anyone had ever seen before. Russia's ready for war, and way earlier than expected. Hey Austria-Hungary, can you get on top of that? Oh yeah, sure, we've got this. Nope. So Germany has to send some troops back to the east to defend against the Russians. The chief of staff of the Austro-Hungarian army is this guy, and although he is handsome, he turns out not to be the best military strategist. Austria-Hungary
I have to give in to him, like, pretty above average mustache right there.
constantly ignores Germany's advice, and then comes running back to Germany whenever they get in trouble. Austria-Hungary even gets its ass kicked by tiny Serbia, who repels all their invasion attempts at the start of the war. It's better news for Germany in the north, though, where they almost completely wipe out the Russian Second Army. Back on the Western Front, the Germans continue advancing and are in sight of Paris. At this point, anyone would be forgiven for thinking the Germans were going to get that quick victory after all, but then things start to go wrong. The French commander-in-chief knew something had to be done, and he ordered his armies to stop retreating. In the resulting battle, a gap opened up in the German lines. If a gap opens up, the enemy can use it to flank you from the side and behind, so the German armies have to retreat. The Allies launch a counterattack, so the Germans dig into defensive positions. The Allies do the same. Then both sides move north, trying to outflank each other along the way. When they reach the sea, they're in a stalemate with trench systems running the whole way from the coast to Switzerland, the beginning of trench warfare on the Western Front. Here's how trench warfare works.
He's going to explain, but I will give you guys a quick summary about trench warfare and how it must be like one of the most unhuman conditions to be in during you're in a wartime. Don't expect it to be treated fairly. But to be honest, like trench war seems like a hell of a nightmare. You basically dig those. I wouldn't. It's not a hole, but it's like a pathway that is probably, I don't know, 2 meters below the ground level, where you dig up like some pathways through as as shown on the map, like through the Jesus, through the border of the country on that case. But especially when we are going to dig up trenches, it's going to be something in between, like I don't know. It's going to have a small gap in between your trenches and the opposite side trenches, and in the middle of the way you have traps, you have all kind of artillery falling down, and you have like landmines, stuff like that. So while you are in the trenches, you are basically living in a hole uh, filled with dirt, water, mud, rats, all kind of insects, all kind of disease, like probably the worst conditions for a human being to live. Meanwhile, the opposite side that is also on those conditionings are basically bombarding your ass off with like shells. And actually, I don't know if you guys know, like the nowadays we know it as PTSD, but during this time of the First World War, we would know the same syndrome as shell shock, because people would be on the trenches, bombs would be falling down on their heads like during days, weeks, months, and these people would go insane. It's like one of the worst things that could have happened to someone in a wartime. And trust me, during a wartime, there are a lot of things that can go wrong.
Two opposing lines of trenches with no man's land in between. One side would pummel the other with hundreds of thousands of artillery shells, sometimes for days at a time. This had a huge psychological effect on the soldiers, leaving many shell-shocked. Then, the attacking troops would leave their trenches and rush across no man's land, a muddy wet mass of shell craters and barbed wire. The defending trench would unleash machine gun fire on the attackers, inflicting thousands of casualties. The attackers would send wave after wave until either they gave up or the opposing trench was finally overrun. There would be months of fighting and the deaths of thousands in order to gain a few meters or kilometers of land. Living in the trenches was hard work too. Corpses, mud that could swallow you whole, pools of poisonous water, rats, disease, the smell. It's insane that millions of soldiers put up with these conditions and commanders ordered them to do so for years.
Oh, that's the first part. Yeah. I have the second part already ready to go over here, but I'll cut the video for now, and if you want the second part, it's probably coming in 1 or 2 days from now, okay? So if you want to follow the live streams, please make sure to join in as a member of the channel. It will probably be available by the time this video is up. So if you want to watch my reactions live and interact with me in the live chat, please make sure to join in as a member. If not, hey. If not, hey. You are. I'm going crazy. I was going to say, if not, just don't worry. Just leave a like, subscribe, and all the good stuff. It's more than enough for me.